3 months ago, I was cutting grass in my front yard. And the mailman shows up with a letter from the army. Now I'm here. No idea where I'm gonna end up.
Welcome to France.
What happened here? Some questions don't have good answers.
There's a lot of soldiers out there, and there's only 4 of us.
Find out what's inside that compound.
Welcome to episode 11 of DNA Film Wars. Today we will be discussing the film Overlord, directed by Julius Avery, written by Billy Ray and Mark L. Smith, and starring Jovan, Adepo, Wyatt Russell, and Mathilde Ollivier. I'm not sure. I butchered 2 of those names.
At least.
Anyway. So,
this is also a Bad Robot production, which means it was produced by J.J. Abrams.
By
if you did not know
Abrams, yes. I'll go ahead and, as usual, we'll do... Actually, first of all, I want to tell the listeners, as you know, if you've been listening to our podcast, we've been ranking movies on our good, bad, or mess scale. Well, upon reflection and listening to our first few episodes, I've decided that I don't think that's working out too well.
I don't care for it too much either.
Yeah, I don't think it's giving us a wide enough range in order to rank the films to really nail down what we think about it. And so we are going to be a little more generic, and we're going to switch over to a star system.
Quote unquote star system.
It
could get interesting at times.
Yeah, we think we're going to do stars, but instead of stars, we're going to do something relating to the film that we're reviewing. For instance, I believe today we're going to be doing, or we could each do an individual one if we want related to the film. I'm going to be doing zombies. So like, For example, I might say 3 out of 5 dead zombies.
Solid.
So anyway, but that's not my ranking of the film. That's just an example. But anyway, with all that being said, let's get into this movie. I'll hand it over to Dylan for his initial thoughts.
All right, so I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. I had a good time with it. Was never really bored with that throughout the movie. Had a great time. It's definitely one of those popcorn action flicks that you can just put on and enjoy yourself. So
yeah, I think it's a little bit campy, but it's a good campy. It's a campy fun ride. A lot of good over the top violence. And like you said, it's just one of those movies that if you're ever bored, you can just put on and have a fun time.
Absolutely.
So why don't we just go ahead and dive right into the story?
All right. So this movie starts off pretty heavy action-packed right at the beginning. I mean, we start off, opening shot, we're looking at planes flying over, I'm guessing, the Atlantic Ocean toward France. Yes?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
That's about my guess. So we start out, and we're looking at a group of soldiers on this plane, and there are ships beneath them, and there are a lot of other planes surrounding them. And we find out that this is the day before D-Day. And you see a man carving the 101st Airborne Division. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe they're supposed to be Easy Company, loosely based on Easy Company, but it is what it is. But it's a good time, and all these soldiers they're getting close to France, and then all of a sudden explosions start happening, and Germans start firing at them. So we have to follow our soldiers as they bail out of this plane, and couple people make it out alive, and they all end up meeting up, and from there we just have a good time. So it's a fast-paced movie, and it never really slows down or halts on the brakes at any specific moment in time. I thought overall that was really helpful for the movie, helped me not get bored.
Yeah.
Because sometimes war movies can get boring, but I mean, as far as a zombie movie goes or a war movie goes, this is a pretty fun one. So once we get on the ground with these characters, we end up meeting up. There's 4 of them, or 5. One of them blows up in a minefield.
Yeah.
But then we end up meeting this French girl who lives in the nearby town that they're having to get to and kind of like take over and get to this church to complete their mission objective, which is to blow up this comms tower so the soldiers can land on the beach in Normandy. And without that they wouldn't have been able, in this story, they wouldn't have been able to land on the beach had they not had this happen. But we meet a French girl, and she leads us into the town, and she has a little brother, and she helps our group of soldiers out throughout the movie. One of my problems with the movie that I have is that the characters could have been fleshed out a little bit more. We never get like a real solid backstory for any one specific character. I mean, we kind of know a little bit about different characters. We know our lead character, played by Jovan Adepo, whose last name is Boys, I believe. He is from I'm guessing Louisiana. His grandmother is Haitian, and he speaks French in the movie, and that's where he learned how to speak French, and so it helps him to communicate with the people in the town, and the lead female character in particular.
Her name is Chloe.
Her name is Chloe in the film. We find out a little bit about the corporal in the movie. He's an explosion specialist. Other than that, we don't find out a whole lot about him. We find out a little bit about Chloe and her family. Her family's kind of taken hostage at one point in the movie, and they're gone. We don't see her family in the movie, but it's explained through
Except
some
for her
exposition.
aunt.
Her aunt is in the movie,
zombie.
and she is a zombie. Or we come to find out that she's a zombie.
Yeah. She's a very tame zombie. She never leaves her room.
With that being said, the movie is a really fun time. It's definitely over the top, and the blood and gore and violence in it's through the roof. But it's a really good time. As far as zombies go too, these are pretty, they're not your generic zombies. They're pretty indestructible. You can't really kill them with a shot to the head. You have to burn these zombies in this movie.
Or just completely destroy their head.
Or completely destroy them. Also, these zombies aren't, like your normal zombies that you see that are kind of
slow moving.
They move like regular people, and they can actually talk. So,
well, yeah, some of them
can
talk. Depends
talk.
on like what stage or what sort of serum they got.
Yeah, so it's an interesting time, and the zombies are really good. I had a good time with this movie. So with our new grading scale, I'm gonna give it 4 stars.
Or 4 zombies.
We'll go with stars for now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna say about the same thing. It got off to a great start with that scene in the plane. Like, it's really tense with the bullets coming up to the floor of the plane, the bombs going off outside the plane, other planes going down around them and everything. And then they have to jump out of the plane, and everything. Then we get on the ground. We, of course, have the scene where they're walking through the field and the one guy gets blown up by a mine. And then we meet, like you said, Chloe and everything. And it's all fast paced. It all hits really fast. There's no real long delay, which I do think leads to, kind of like you said, the characters aren't quite fleshed out. I said they're kind of shallow at times because you don't really know any of their backstory except for a little bit of our main character and maybe a little bit of Ford, the corporal, the leader of the squad or whatever. But I mean, that's not in a movie like this. That's not really important. You just need some characters to follow
But you care about slightly.
Stuff gets blown up. And like I said, I like the zombies in this movie. I like that they're not super conventional. They're pretty invincible. They're more like the serum. It almost reminded me of kind of like a Captain America super soldier serum type.
But
thing.
It makes these people.
It turns them into zombie-like creatures instead of Chris Evans super body build creatures.
Whatever.
and everything. That's cool. There are it's just a campy kind of movie. So there are a few plot holes that kind of bug me. Like, for instance, early in the movie, someone is injected with this serum and they just kind of completely lose it and lose control, and bones start growing out of their body everywhere and everything, and they have to be killed.
This is right after we first find out that the Germans are making zombies, pretty much. So
yeah, and then a few hours later, the German that our main character is captured, he escapes and he runs to the lab and he grabs the serum.
Three syringes worth of it.
Yeah, and he injects it himself. But apparently, in the last 2 hours, it's been more refined, and so he doesn't completely lose control like everybody else. But that's just
what it is.
Minor thing. And then there's one scene that kind of bugged me. It's a cool scene. They get a German and they tie him to his own bike, and they tape a grenade inside his mouth so that when the other Germans rip off the tape, it
pulls the pin,
and he just kind of sits there freaking out. I'm like,
why didn't you just spit it out?
Why didn't you just spit it out? But it doesn't matter because it makes for a really cool.
And his head blows off,
and then his bike blows up, and then they kill all the Germans. But Just minor things like that. But overall, it's a really fun time. Like I said, the over the top violence. I love stuff like that.
It's a fun time.
So overall, I'll give it a 4-star.
So let's go ahead and get into this acting. I think that with the story being said and some of the characters not being fleshed out, the actors in this movie, for the most part, everyone does a pretty good job. Jovan, Adepo, and Mathilde Ollivier.
Is it Mathilda? Because there's an E on the end.
Mathilde?
Is it Mathilde? It has to be Mathilda. That doesn't sound right.
It's whatever.
Hey, whatever.
We apologize for butchering these names.
Yeah.
I think both of they're more of our leads, I would say, because
yeah,
he's our lead character for sure, and he kind of has a thing for this young French girl, and
as does everybody in this movie.
I mean, of course, I'd say that those are our two leads for the most part. Besides maybe Wyatt Russell's character,
he's the
of Corporal Ford,
biggest supporting character.
But I think for the most part, our two leads do a pretty good job for what they've given in the writing that's been given to them. Like I said, there's not a whole lot to flesh them out, but for what they're given, they do a good job. Wyatt Russell and the man who plays the lead antagonist, I don't even want to try to pronounce his name because I know it's going to be bad. So we'll just call him by his character's name, and his character's name is Waffner. They can be a little too much at times. Wyatt Russell's character, Corporal Ford, he just, at one point in time, he just puts on this set of brass knuckles that's attached to a knife, and he just goes to town on people for no reason. And
well, I mean, there's a reason.
Kind of a reason, but I mean, he takes it a little too far. I mean, he's like,
he takes the information out of him. I mean,
he's trying to get information, but I mean, it's a little
too
too much at sometimes, and he kind of overacts a little bit as well as the man who plays Waffner. But everyone else is good. We all, as far as everyone is, they're pretty good for what they're written as. So yeah, I'll give it 4 stars.
Yeah, I'll agree. This is a mostly pretty new cast of actors as far as
I've not really seen anybody in anything.
I've seen the actor who plays the lead antagonist. He was in Game of Thrones, and then the guy. Oh, what's his name? Let me look real quick. And then the guy who plays Chase, which is Ian Day Castecker, I guess. He is on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I haven't watched it. Haven't kept up with it. So he was probably the one I recognized the most, honestly. But they're all passable. I think our lead, Jovan Adepo and Mathilde Ollivier, are good. Like Dylan said, Wyatt Russell, and I'm not going to pronounce his name either, the German guy, their acting gets a little over the top sometimes. Everybody else does what they need to do for this kind of movie. So overall, I'll give it a 3.5 star.
So getting into our hodgepodge or technical aspect of this film, let's start off with the effects of this movie. The effects in this movie are pretty good overall. I mean, we got some really good looking explosions, some really good looking scenes with some flamethrowers and people killing zombies. We got some good scenes of some blood and gore where people are being killed. In particular, some of the scenes, especially with the guy with the scene with Chase where he gets turned into a quote unquote zombie or whatever. He comes back to life after being killed. His entire scene of transforming into this creature is not bad looking. Some scenes where people are being killed, some of the effects of the gunshots going through their bodies or in a couple cases their heads look really good. I mean, and when our lead character kills Chase after he's become a zombie and he tries to like attack everyone, he takes his rifle and smashes his head in. It looks pretty good. I mean, as far as effects go, I think everything looks pretty good overall. Makeup in this movie is really good, or I guess our zombie effects look really good. Yeah. Zombies look, I mean, they look rough. Yeah. They look like they've been through hell and back, and it's they look pretty solid, especially after our lead. So the thing that leads him to become the creature or inject himself with the serum is he's been shot by Wyatt Russell's character. Yeah. While he flees the house that he's been held hostage in, and he makes it back to the church, and his face is like falling apart. So he just injects himself with like 2 or 3 syringes worth of this serum, and he just goes all out. He looks great. His face is all kinds of mangled, and it looks spectacular. The sound design in this movie is really good. I think that all the guns sound really good. I think that all the noises the zombies make, they sound pretty good. All the creaks and groans of this underground area where this lab is and stuff like that, it all sounds really good. for the most part, this movie is pretty well directed. This comes from a director who's maybe directed one other actual full-length feature film in his life.
Yeah.
He's directed a lot of short films. I couldn't tell you what they are, but for someone who's not directed a whole lot, I think he does a really good job. The score in this movie, I mean, it's not a memorable one, but it's pretty good. So as far as that technical aspect goes, I'll give it 4 stars too.
My hodgepodge section, I'll say that the effects are mostly good. I'll disagree with you a little bit. I think the scene where Chase is turning into a zombie creature is mostly really good. There are a couple of frames I thought were a little suspect. Also, with the scene with our lead antagonist when he becomes a zombie, I thought there were a couple of CGI shots, a little suspect. But for the most part, it is really good. The explosions all look really good and everything. The makeup is really good. Especially, there's one that I'm really impressed with. The one where the zombie that ends up chasing our lead actress through the underground cavern or whatever, tunnels. That's like a full body makeup job with him. And he looks really, really grossy and creepy. And the sound design, like you said, is really good. I mean, the zombies sound creepy. Especially the scene with Chase when like bones start popping out of his skin and everything. That all creeps me out. But the direction, like you said, is mostly good. I felt like at times they could have built up more tension in some of these scenes instead of just rushing through everything. But at the same time, I kind of appreciate how they just kept it going 90-0. Soundtrack, like you said, is serviceable. I like the soundtrack all the way up until the end credits start rolling, and then that song, whatever it was they got at the end, is not
a semi-bluesy song, but not really.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. It wasn't good. So overall, I'll give it 4 stars.
So with all those different categories out of the way, our overall thoughts and opinions on this movie, I had a really great time with this movie, and I will definitely have to sit down and watch this one again. I enjoyed it a lot. I like how this story kind of plays off semi-ish, very far-stretched, semi-true events. The only thing that's really true in this movie is
some people went to Germany.
Some people went to France and in World War II. That's about it.
It's historic. It's a historical. What do they call it? Historical fiction.
Historical fiction.
Yeah, I like
very much that. I like that. It's not a complicated story. We got some soldiers, and we got an objective, and we're trying to accomplish it. And there's a subplot with zombies. It's a fun time.
Well, I wouldn't say it's a subplot. It's the main plot, probably.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. There's no major plot twist.
No, not really. Acting, I thought overall is pretty good for the most part. Everyone does a good job with what they're given. As far as the story was written, it's just a really good time. Like I said earlier, it's one of those popcorn action flicks that you sit down and you put on when you're bored one day. You're like, you know what, that was a fun time. I don't got anything better to do. Let's put something fun on, and you put that on, and you just have a good time. So for my overall grade, I'll go ahead and adjust our scale and what I'm going to use. I'll give it 4 out of 5. What do I want to call them? Creepy walkers. Why not?
Creepy walkers. Yeah, I'll agree with you. It's a really fun ride. Simple but effective as far as the story goes. Like I said, acting is a little hit and miss at times, but for a sort of fun, campy type movie like this, it does the job. I'll give it a 4 out of 5. Dead zombies. So with that out of the way, why don't we talk about what we got coming up?
All right, looks like we got quite a bit coming up according to our notes here. Later this week, we couldn't get to it this weekend because I have to work quite a bit this weekend. It happens to be a very busy weekend with The Grinch coming out. So we're going to go see Girl in the Spider's Web on Wednesday. We'll record that episode that night, and it should be coming to you guys on Thursday. What else we got coming up?
Our discussion episode, right now I plan for it to come out as usual on Tuesday. In that episode, we will be discussing Fantastic Beasts and the Crimes of Grindelwald, or whatever it is.
Grindelwald.
And we will be discussing The Grinch.
We're going to go see that next week. And then
our plan is, in our discussion episode, to rank all 9 Harry Potter films, including Fantastic Beasts. We'll probably do a top 5
Christmas movies or animated movies, something like that.
Yeah, for The Grinch. So look for that to come out Tuesday. As
reviews to follow after that. So
yeah, reviews. I hope that we can get to. I don't know what Dylan's schedule is. I hope that we can get to Fantastic Beasts and The Grinch during the weekend. If not, one of them will come out in the middle of the week like we're doing this week.
And then if we have a little bit of extra time on our hands, I'd really like to talk about Widows because it looks like it'll be pretty good.
Well, I have that planned.
Do you have
for our
that planned
discussion
for-
episode with Creed
Oh,
2?
all right, cool.
And also, speaking of Creed 2, the following weekend we will be reviewing Creed 2 and hopefully Widows. And I'm catching up on the Rocky films, so that
What are you on right now?
I plan on watching Rocky 4 tonight.
Rocky 4.
So
That's probably my favorite one to watch repeatedly. So
yeah. So I hope to be able to rank those when we get to the Creed discussion episode. I think that's about all we have for you today. As always, thank you for listening. Dylan, you got anything to add?
Always got to hit up that social media. We're at DNA Film Wars. All lowercase, no space on all social media platforms. So.
Yep, and if you have any specific questions and or comments, you can always contact us at dnafilmwars@gmail.com. As always, you're welcome to leave us a review on whatever podcatcher site you are using. We're up on all the important ones. So with all that being said, I'm Aaron.
I'm Dylan, and we'll see you next time.
What is this?
1,000-year army. These 1,000-year soldiers.
What's behind that wall?
What do you do with those people?